We literally just complained for like the past 10 minutes at what is this podcast for otherwise?
Well, now we can complain at work, so that's good.
Yes, you're joining the Tinder team.
Oh, I don't know the first thing about Tinder. Okay, bye. You must keep quiet now. Okay, bye. Thank you, love you, bye. Okay. Wow, I told him to put more in and he maybe put like a centimeter more wine. Amateur.
Put it to the brim.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Anyway. Sorry for all of that disturbance. Very sorry.
That disturbance. That is what
all of the
call our podcast.
In and out. Yes. And that would be Law and Omen.
I was going to say. Welcome to this.
Welcome. Yes, welcome to Law and Omen.
And
the true crime and paranormal.
Sorry.
We're both trying to say welcome. This is like a cacophony of crap.
We're really trying to usher you into the podcast and welcome you with, I almost said warm regards. But yes.
Warm regards and condolences to your ear holes.
Yes. Especially after calling it that.
It's been a long week. Life. Everything.
Yeah, it really has.
My phone is on 68%. I'm so disappointed.
Oh gosh, what percentage was it when we started recording?
Oh, I have no idea. It's plugged into the PC, but I was just like, it's not 69. That was more the point.
I was going to name... So we record our episodes on Clean Feed, and then the person that you invite, you can give them screen name to. And I nearly... So your screen name today is German sausage, because it's a joke that happened at work today. Someone... What's really weird is spoke about German sausage in the non-sausage way.
Chat.
Yeah.
In a work chat, guys.
Yeah. And I nearly wanted to call you German Sausage Lover 69.
Can we put that on a t-shirt, or is that like unacceptable?
I don't want to be associated with that, even though I gave it the name.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that is amazing. Yeah, I'm glad you didn't give me that name.
Yeah, but that's what basically happened in the freaking work meetings thing. I was like, what the hell is going on? Please stop. You guys are all making me feel very uncomfortable.
Not even our line manager, like the department manager. Like,
yeah.
That's insane.
Oh my gosh, why? If anyone from my company is listening, this is a joke.
Yeah, joke. We love this company.
I can't do the robot.
I think that was a pretty good robot.
Thank you. Alright, so I guess we should start. Disclaimer, the following stories contain graphic content and might not be suitable for everyone. The sources I use to find this information will be listed below, and everything I say is my own opinion unless it is stated as fact. And obviously I mean no disrespect towards anyone that I speak about. I am going to cover the case of Siam Lee.
Interesting name.
So, on the 6th of January 2018, the following was reported in an article by SA People News. Friends and family of missing Durban 20-year-old Siam Lee are appealing to South Africans, particularly in the Johannesburg-Gauteng area, to please be on the lookout for her. It has now been over 48 hours since she disappeared under quote-unquote suspicious circumstances. Siam had last been seen on Thursday afternoon, the 4th of January 2018. She went missing outside of her workplace in Margaret Matum Avenue in Durban North. Durban North Police spokesperson Captain Raymond de Coran told North Glen News, quote, "A case of missing persons has been opened and we are currently looking for the young woman. We found her shoes at the scene of where she was last seen. We are appealing to anyone with information to contact the station." CCTV footage showed that Siam was allegedly abducted around 3 p.m. by a male driver of a black piano van with a GP registration number. That's why obviously they were appealing to the Gauteng area as well. A family friend wrote the following on Facebook, quote, "Unfortunately, we live in a country where you automatically think the worst. At this stage, we have no new info or leads. I am appealing to anybody with any news about her whereabouts." And unfortunately, by the 11th of January 2018, the family identified Siam Lee's badly burnt body that was found in a secluded sugarcane field near Handover in KwaZulu-Natal.
Oh, that's sad.
I know.
It's bad enough when you find someone that you love that's been killed, but when their body has been mutilated in any way, it's just, really.
And it was burnt. The burns were so bad that a year after her murder and after her body was discovered there, nothing had grown there since.
Oh, wow. That's really bad.
So Siam Lee was born on the 15th of April 1997 in Hong Kong, where her mother had been working as a sex worker at the time. Her father was a wealthy businessman from South Africa. Reports saying from Joburg, some saying from Cape Town. Doesn't really matter. Siam's mom went to Wykerham, either Wykerham or Wykerham, I don't know, a private boarding school in Pietermaritzburg, but left before she matriculated to pursue a career in dancing, which is how she ended up in Asia. So there's one other source that I saw, I think it was a podcast that I was watching, and they said that she was an exotic dancer and that's what led her to go to Hong Kong. I don't know. From what I read from this article, it made me think that she was a dancer, I don't know, modern dancing, I don't know, salsa dancing, whatever, and she went to Asia like that. Doesn't really matter, but
I suppose exotic dancing sells more headlines.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but it doesn't really matter. So Siam's mom had a childhood friend that said Siam's mom, I don't know, like I always say, I don't really want to disclose everyone's name. I don't know if they want their names out there. Siam's mom's childhood friend said that Siam's mom grew up in a broken home where the alcoholism she lives with had its roots, and how after school she became a stripper, never to leave a path that led her into a sad world.
Oh, that's sad. It's always sad when other people's choices influence other people's lives, especially younger people like that.
When Siam turned 5, she and her mother moved back to South Africa and settled in Durban. Although they always wanted to go back to Hong Kong. They were really happy there. They loved living there. Siam was described as a sweet, gentle spirit who would literally not harm a fly. One of the women who worked with Siam remarked on her loving, kind nature, quote, "I used to watch in disbelief when we were sometimes sitting together and having a drink, and how Siam would put her hand around a fly to protect it and would then free it just so it didn't get hurt." And her mom saying that she was full of love and kindness. Her mom also said that she loved reading, quote, "She had the same philosophy as I did. Being an only child, reading was important to her. It was an escape."
Can relate.
Yeah.
Not to the only child part, but the reading being an escape thing. I remember in primary school, I used to take out as many books as I could. I took my library card, my dad's and my mom's, and I took out all the books I could. And I would sometimes read 100-page book in a day, and then I'd read 3 books. Yeah, definitely. That's one way to escape.
Definitely, yeah. Escaping into the pages of a book is oftentimes the best way. In 2005, Siam's father was murdered in his Clifton penthouse.
Okay, 2 things. Clifton penthouse, 1, and awful. That's so horrible. Shame. So young to lose your parent.
Yeah. You know, he was like very rich. He was filthy rich, obviously, having a Clifton penthouse. Siam would have been 8 at the time, and her father, being a very wealthy man, as I mentioned, had set up a trust fund for Siam. And she was able to go to a really good school, Crawford College. However, the trust fund would stop paying out either in the middle of her matric year or right after she matriculated. In one of the articles I read, it said that the trust stopped paying out after she turned 18. So that would have been in April then. Although Siam and her mom thought that there would be enough money for Siam to be able to go to university.
Yeah, you would imagine like that it wouldn't just take you through normal school, especially if you're that wealthy.
Yeah.
It would carry you through college in a few years at least.
That's the thing. I do mention they were fighting the fact that the trust fund money stopped. I don't know if they were specifically in court already or in the process of, but they were actively rebuttal. They thought that it would be enough money for Siam to be able to go to university. Unfortunately, that was not the case, and Siam had to start working. Siam worked as a waitress, a bartender, a model, a promoter, and she even sold pool chemicals. Her mom also said the following, quote, "She was left behind by her contemporaries who went to Stellenbosch and Rhodes." Obviously, those are universities in South Africa. They all had futures. She had really believed that the trust money would come through as promised. Year after year went by and I watched her wither or not bloom, unquote. So Siam's mom was still working as a sex worker, but I'm not sure if she'd always worked as one or if there were periods in her life where she wasn't doing it, but regardless, in June of 2017, Siam's mom was badly hurt with boiling water while embroiled in a brawl with another sex worker. That is literally all I could find about that. And it's in one source.
Oh my goodness. How do you get into a fight with hot water? That's like what you said in like other episodes, you reaching for a knife when you're in a fight. Yeah. Like hot water, you know that's going to cause so much damage.
I don't know.
But like how angry do you have to be? Like, you know, hot water is awful and how badly that's going to hurt and stuff, and for how long it's going to hurt. It's not like punching someone.
And the scars it's going to create.
Yes. Especially since, you know, her body is her moneymaker.
So, quote, "After I got burnt, I couldn't work, and Siam said, quote, 'Mommy, I have to work on my own now. I'll be fine,' unquote." The whole thing. And they were left with no other options because they were destitute, quote. Again, from the mom. "I never wanted her to be on her own in this industry. I was worried that if it ever got out that she was doing sensual massage, that her name would be dragged through the mud. She looked at me in the eyes and told me that she didn't care. She said if anyone questioned why she was doing something so sordid, she didn't care because she knew why she was doing it." Okay, so Siam didn't do any sex work, technically. She offered sensual massages. They operated out of a house known to be a brothel in Margaret Matham Avenue, and Siam advertised her services on an adult website. On the homepage of the portal, it reads, quote, "Make all your fantasies come true with our very generous and ready-to-please escorts and models in South Africa. Red Velvet Escorts gives you the best in adult entertainment." Okay, so in her advert, she appears alongside her mother under the moniker, quote, "student in training," quote. I will say that on the website there's a tab that says massage only, and on that page it clearly states, "Please note, these are massage only services, no fully inclusive extras on offer." So it is very, out there that this is all that it is. No happy ending. Everyone's sad.
Can you imagine? You go to a massage and at the end, it's you, the masseuse, everyone just crying, like weeping.
On Siam's profile, in her description, quote, "Stunning young college babe doing sensual massage. No FH available. No private numbers or SMSs will be answered, working from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay, so FH is full house. So full house services. I know everyone understands what that means. So Siam's mom said that they worked as a team and that she would supervise Siam. Quote, "We started working together because I didn't want her to work on her own because she was so naive and I didn't want guys taking advantage of her. We called ourselves an instructor and a student in training, and she didn't do anything without me being in the room. Which is, she is trying to protect her. And
yes, because she knows, like, what it can be like, and, like, she doesn't want that for her kid. So.
Yeah.
Oh, shame.
They really looked at this as a means to an end, and neither one of them wanted this to be Siam's life. They wanted to work until the trust fund was reinstated, which they were fighting for, or until they had saved enough money for Siam to be able to pay for university. Siam wanted to teach and travel the world one day. The heartbreaking thing is that weeks before Siam's body was found, she had reached out to an organization that aids sex workers and told of her despair in having to lead a life, or a double life, while moving from one brothel to another, all while maintaining a facade for her family and friends. From the Sunday Times article I read, quote, she described the circumstances that had led her from the corridors of Crawford College to the dimly lit rooms of a massage parlor, and said her service of sensual massage had helped keep a roof over her head and supported her mother when she herself was not able to work as an escort. The emotional wreckage that it's causing is much more severe than the physical draining, Siam wrote in a cry for help. My friends and family don't know what I'm doing. My trust fund collapsed, and when I turned 18, I had to resort to doing what I do to pay for a roof over my head for my mom and I. A counsellor who spoke to the Sunday Times on condition of anonymity said, quote, she sent us a message in September 2017, and we spoke several times over the phone. The last I heard from her was on Boxing Day, when she said she had some clothes that she would like to donate to the street ladies. She would always say that she was so emotionally broken and she was done with the game. Quote, every single one of our girls is doing this for survival, and a lot of them are so profoundly broken that they don't see that there is a way out, unquote.
And it's just like, it's making me think, like, especially now in like 2022, whatever, there's so many people who's turning to things like OnlyFans and whatever, and everyone's like a sex worker now. But it's such a contrast to these people who have absolutely nothing, and it's their only means of survival.
Yeah.
It's so insane that in something like sex work, which is an industry that's been around forever but is so like looked down on, that there's like a hierarchy in that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so bonkers.
Yeah, but there's a big difference between people who choose to follow that path and people who do it out of necessity. And, like they said, she herself, Siam's mom herself, described it as a means to an end. It is sad when it is people turning to it out of desperation because there's nothing else. And that, again, falls on the broken system. In October 2017, a businessman named Pilani Ntuli arrived at the location Siam was working from for a massage. He was driving a black Mercedes-Benz Viano. After the appointment, he messaged her to ask her out for dinner, and she agreed. And that evening, before going to dinner with Ntuli, Siam's mom also met the man. She came out when he came to pick her up, obviously, like most moms do. This is what she said about that night. Quote, when he arrived to pick her up in this big black loaf of bread, a black Mercedes.
Sounds like my mom.
I went, hello, how do you do? I'm student in training's mom, unquote. And so the couple left for dinner and Siam returned home at around 10 p.m. According to her mom, as she came into the door, which was at 10:15, she went like this, quote, oh God, Mom, I never want to see that guy again. He's so weird. He is so creepy, unquote. But Siam's mom said she herself didn't pick up a weird vibe when she met him. But I think we all know that people have the ability to, like, figuratively put on a mask and fool people into thinking they're one way when they're completely different people, But it seems like Siam did end up seeing him a few more times. I saw some sources that said Ntuli lent Siam 50,000 rand so that she could pay off her debts, but she still felt creeped out by him every time they would meet and decided that she would cut ties with him. I do
if a
mention...
dude is... Sorry, no, like if a dude is just... I don't even know him and he's going to lend me 50,000, I'd be like, yeah. Nice, but...
So I do go into detail a little bit later on in the case, where it seems like he did really lend her 50,000 rand, and she wasn't the first sex worker that he had seen, and she knew the other sex worker as well. So that might have also brought about why she didn't want to deal with him anymore and wanted to cut ties. She decided to cut ties with him, allegedly not having paid him back for the money she owed him. On the 4th of January, Siam's mom said that she dropped Siam at what has now been exposed as a suburban brothel in Durban North. It's also quite an upscale area from what I researched.
But upscale people are particularly the ones who have escorts and stuff, so it's not surprising, really.
On the 4th of January, Siam's mom said that she dropped Siam at what has now been exposed as a suburban brothel in Durban North because Siam had clients booked for the day despite being sick from a New Year's Eve party. The two, Siam and her mom, went to a trance music festival together somewhere near Durban. Her mother even said, quote, "I haven't washed her tie-dye dress she wore that night. I sleep with it every night," unquote. So on this day, a man driving a black Mercedes Viano arrived at the brothel at around 4 p.m. He was carrying an unlicensed firearm and he stormed into Siam's room, forcing her out of the house and into his vehicle. And he sped off, kidnapping Siam. As the driver was driving at a very high speed, he lost control of the vehicle and hit another person's car. The driver of the Viano sped off and the angry witness gave chase and eventually smashed into the back of the Viano. But the Viano managed to escape. After escaping the angry witness, the Viano traveled to a house in Shongweni, about 20 minutes away from where Siam had been taken. After about a day of being held at this home, which I believe we all put two and two together, by now we know it's Ntuli. Ntuli, under the cover of night, drove 60 kilometers to the next location in Hanover, and this is where Siam's body was found, dumped in a sugarcane field. Her body was doused with petrol and set alight. A local farmer was on his way to go fishing when he stumbled across the horrendous scene of where Siam laid, burnt beyond recognition. Siam was identified by her silver nail polish. Her mom spoke about the horrible memory, saying, quote, "She was lying in this dying swan pose with her hand showing her left hand above her head, was not burnt. It was the same color. Her flesh was normal and her nail varnish was on this hand. But when I looked into her face, she had a whole hole in her face. There was no face and there were no teeth."
That's awful, man.
I know.
Like, all your mom has left of you is your freaking hand.
Yeah.
Oh, that's always the part that gets me about these things, is when the killers just take away the person's dignity, but also, like, the family's chance to properly grieve the loss. It's bad enough you're taking away their loved one. Like, they can't hold that person and, just say goodbye one last time.
Brad Nathanson, a PI, said that every policeman, person in the security industry, and people in the personal investigation industry were concerned about this horrific murder that happened right on their doorstep. He went on to say, quote, "And then I received a phone call one day. The phone call was from a policeman who was standing over Siam's body in New Hanover and saying that her body had been burnt almost beyond recognition. On that day, I got on my knees in the veranda and prayed to God that I'd be the person to arrest this man," unquote. A breakthrough would come when Brad Nathanson received information from the witness who was hit by the Viano on the day of Siam's abduction. So this literally happened very close to where Siam was abducted. So knowing that the witness had smashed into the back of the Viano, and that had left a massive dent in the big black Mercedes, Brad and his team knew what to do next. They checked with various insurance companies to see if a claim had been put in for the damage to this black Viano, and they found a claim. They were able to trace the vehicle to a house in Shongweni. So apparently he didn't have a tracker in his car, or also there's one source that said he didn't have insurance on the car, but I mean, they found him through the insurance, so I do think he had insurance on the car, he just didn't have a tracker installed. But apparently Mercedes installs a tracker in all its vehicles, so they were able to use that. I never knew that.
Really? I didn't know that. I don't know if Bass knows that. I should ask him to check if his Mercedes has a tracker.
Yeah. Well, that's what the one source said, so I don't know.
That's scary.
I know.
They shouldn't be allowed to put trackers in without your knowledge.
Exactly. Why are you tracking it if I'm not asking you to? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that's one source. So they were able to trace the vehicle to a house in Shongweni, and they contacted the police with all the information they found. Police impounded the car, and together with Brad, they waited for the owner to return home. Brad Nathanson said about the day, quote, "We watched him from up there," from where he was driving up. Watched him open the garage and literally stand there in shock for 20 seconds while he looked around for the motor car, which wasn't there. And then went back to the driver's door of his car as if he was going to leave. And we stopped here in front of the main gate and asked him to open the gate. I'll never forget taking that man down and handcuffing him and looking at his attire and smelling how good he smelt. Expensive aftershave, noting that he had a Mont Blanc pen in his pocket. I thought to myself for a fleeting moment that I made a mistake, that I arrested the wrong guy. This guy was just too plausible. He was too well spoken, he was too well polished, too well finished. It was impossible. But Pelani Ntuli, who was 29 at the time, was arrested.
No, I was just like, 29 is so young. 29. Oh my word, I didn't expect him to be that young. Also, I'm very jealous he had a Mont Blanc pen. I really want one. Or at least to get my Parker pen fixed. Okay, it's my mom's Parker pen, alright? I can't afford one.
Pelani Ntuli was arrested for the kidnapping and murder of Siam Lee. The 29-year-old biochemist was charged with kidnapping, murder, possession of an unlicensed firearm, defeating the ends of justice, rape, and kidnapping. Brad Nathanson said, quote, "Outstanding cases and brand new cases filed through a lineup at a police station yesterday played a part in the 9 additional cases brought against the suspect. With the Siam Lee investigation, he now faces charges in 10 cases total." He also said that he was overwhelmed by the number of calls from businessmen who invested in the suspect's biofuel company but never received anything from him.
Okay, well, I didn't expect any of that. I was like, okay, it's this one... No, he's like a proper criminal.
Yeah, and a biochemist.
Yeah, and like a scammer.
Yeah,
it sounds it.
100%. The court heard that Pelani Ntuli allegedly raped another sex worker who also advertised her services on the same website. So this is the one that I mentioned earlier. She worked as a quote-unquote sensual masseuse in Pinetown, west of Durban. According to the indictment read in court, Ntuli contacted and became acquainted with both Lee and the woman. He then became the woman's client and later became Siam's, according to the indictment. The court heard that on the 21st of March 2016, Ntuli allegedly forced the sex worker at gunpoint from Eskombi, I don't know how to say it, in Pinetown, to his residence in Hillcrest, where he held her captive. He then allegedly raped her. He allegedly also called her a white racist cunt, but also allegedly robbed the woman of her 2 cell phones. The court also heard how Ntuli abused his ex-fiancée. Their relationship began, of course, like we already know this man is, or I hesitate to call him a man, like he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's human with a penis. Yeah, he's just awful.
Yeah, this needs to be away from everyone else. Their relationship began in February 2014, and when they were engaged to be married, his fiancée had moved into his house. The court heard that as their relationship progressed, Ntuli allegedly became abusive towards her, both physically and emotionally. He had also allegedly assaulted her. Everything is alleged because you'll see why it never made it to court. He also allegedly assaulted her on the 6th of June 2015, quote, by punching and strangling her with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. She sustained a broken ankle, among other injuries due to the force of the attack, and she ended their engagement and relationship in June of 2015. In February 2017, Ntuli allegedly created a website and placed a newspaper advert, quote, as a ploy to threaten, force, and intimidate, unquote, his ex-fiancée to return a spear and pot that he had bought as a part of her Labola gifts. He allegedly...
I don't even know what to say about that.
It's just anything to try and keep control over the situation somehow. He allegedly placed her pictures on both the website and the advert. The contents of the website and advert were, quote, designed to insult and demean her by portraying her as a woman of ill repute and low moral standards and intentions, unquote.
Because he's of such high standards, obviously. He's of such good repute. He's just wonderful. But all the women he's with, they're whores, but he is just pure and saintly and just...
Due to the continued conduct of the accused, she successfully obtained a protection order against him in December 2017, said prosecutor Sharika Maramutu. Now I am going to talk what happened in the lead up to Siam's murder, and I want to give a blanket trigger warning because it gets graphic and it is difficult to listen to. When Siam was abducted, she was kept in a dark room, and this all came out during the pre-trial hearing. She was kept in a dark room in Ntuli's Shongweni home. Allegedly, she also had a blanket put over her head while she was there. Siam was tied up and sexually assaulted for hours. And allegedly the reason he abducted her was because he kept on allegedly asking her for the money back and she wasn't able to pay him, and then she cut the ties, and he went there with the intentions of, threatening her with the gun, but she still didn't have the money on her in any case, so he thought, oh, okay, let me kidnap her because someone is going to come forward with the money, like her mom or whoever is going to pay the money. It's going to be ransom money. I think it's bullshit.
Which already, it doesn't make sense, because if she needed to borrow the money, then it's understandable she wouldn't be able to pay it back. And she's a sex worker. Like, you are one of her clients. Like, where is she supposed to get this money from? Like, you would have known already. Yeah. So it's all bullshit.
Yeah, it already is.
And how do you go... how do you go from threatening someone with a gun, like, okay, that I guess kind of makes sense, to sexually assaulting someone after kidnapping them? Those are two completely different crimes. Those are two different things.
What I also kept reading in a lot of sources is how, Siam was this untouchable thing because she didn't offer sex services. She only offered massage therapy. And there was a couple of sources that said he basically became obsessed with her. I don't even want to use infatuated, because no, it's not infatuation. He became obsessed with her. I think he just wanted to possess her. Like, he just wanted to have her, basically. And I believe that he planned this and he knew what he was doing, because he had obviously done this before. He had obviously kidnapped and raped women before. So that's why he did it this time again. He wanted to. He's a fucking gross, I don't even want to say human being, because he's just gross. He's a gross. That's all he is.
Just a gross. Yeah. Gross. No, because that's just awful.
Yeah, and the next part just gets fucking worse. So I'm going to throw another trigger warning out there. Allegedly, the only reason he murdered her was because Siam, after suffering for hours, suffering from being sexually assaulted and from being brutally beaten. She said that she would still report him. She would still go to the police and tell them what they did, no matter what. So he decided that he had to kill her, basically. That was his reason, which I also call bullshit for. And he tried to strangle her at first, but whilst strangling her, her legs went into spasm. And, quote, feeling sorry for her and wanting to put her out of her misery, fuck right off. He decided that he was going to put the blanket over Siam's face. He went into the garage to get a hammer, and he repeatedly hit her in the face with this hammer. That's why there was a hole in her head with no teeth.
Jeez. And that blanket was not for her. That was because he was so cowardly he didn't want to see what he was doing to her.
100.
Oh, I feel so sorry for her. Then stop strangling her. Stop trying to kill her if you feel sorry for her. Like, what are you doing? Oh, he's such a piece of garbage.
And thereafter, he drove his car in his car with her, stopping at a petrol station to buy 25 liters of petrol. And afterwards dumped her body and set her alight in the sugarcane field where she was found. Ntuli applied for bail, and of course he tried playing victim, saying, quote, "I was told to either confess or leave in a body bag. I have bruises and scars all over my body to prove it." I don't give a fuck what you say, because you are a liar.
Sorry, you wanna cry about, oh, but I was made to confess. Seriously? All of this is premeditated. All of this is like thought out. So just shut up.
"I haven't been able to properly consult with my attorney," he said. "Rude and insulting remarks were also made towards my family when they tried to visit me. Now, I do not agree with insulting anyone's family. They didn't do it, but I will fucking insult him. He's a piece of fucking shit." The magistrate ruled that the accused's claims will be fully investigated and that the authorities, quote, "act within the ambit of the law and to respect the accused's constitutional rights." Ntuli said his businesses were not doing well because of his incarceration. He said that he was also responsible for taking care of his mother and 14-year-old brother, who goes to a private school. He added that his 17 employees and their families had been going through financial strain since his arrest. And Judge Mohammed Mortala granted him bail of 40,000 rand after ruling that he had put forward exceptional circumstances which warranted his release.
Okay, if you care that much about your family and your employees, why the hell are you raping and murdering?
Mm-hmm. Surely there's someone else that can run the business. Like, surely there's a VP or someone else that can run the business. You do not deserve to walk on God's green earth again. Also, talking from an employee's point of view, I don't want to fucking work for my boss. I don't want him to come back if he's a rapist and a murderer.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the next job or milking this company for all that it has because the boss is a piece of shit. More than most bosses usually
because how do you feel safe?
Yeah. You don't.
Oh, no.
As a woman especially.
Yeah. And it's such a slap in the face of the victim and the family of the victim to just be like, yeah, it's fine. There's other people who matter. Really?
Yeah. So his release came with a few conditions. He was entitled to travel to Johannesburg to attend to his other businesses, but must give the investigating officer 24 hours notice, a date of return, and the address of the place where he will be staying. He must report in person to the station commander of the Alexandra police station in Pietermaritzburg and to a police station in Westernaria when in Johannesburg every Monday, Wednesday and Friday between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. He was also warned not to interfere, communicate or contact state witnesses and not to enter the property or home of his ex-fiancée. He was asked to hand in any travel documents to the state. In 2019, Ntuli's case was headed to trial, but 1 month before it would happen, Ntuli died from skin cancer. Good.
I can't think of a more fitting suffering for you to go through.
It is sad because, he never made it to trial, so he didn't enter a plea, so he hasn't been found guilty, and that's why everything here is alleged.
Yeah, alleged.
But
he did it, and he would have probably gotten away with it and gotten out in like 5 years or whatever, so at least this way he can't get away from justice.
Yeah. Ntuli died from skin cancer, and Siam's case was struck off the roll, I think. Not long. I don't know how long after that, but it was eventually struck off the roll. I'm not going to even go into his cancer because, to be frank, I honestly don't give a fuck. Basically, reports said how he looked weak and was like, looked the shadow of a man he used to be. I don't fucking care. I don't care. I couldn't care
Good.
less.
He deserves to just be a shadow. Like,
Exactly.
What are you? You're not even
I hope
human.
he went through hell.
I hope it was awful. Because what did she go through? It wasn't just like a quick ordeal. She was like kidnapped. She was there for a while and had to go through repeated abuse.
Exactly.
And like she was probably missing her mom and thinking about her mom and like scared out of her mind.
Of course.
So good, you deserve that.
Yeah.
I hope it was hell.
So the sad part is that the state truly believed they had a very strong case against him and that they would for sure get a conviction and that he would have been sentenced. But it's like you said, like how long do they get sentenced, you know? Siam's mom moved out of the flat that she and Siam had shared and moved to Bloemfontein. I'm going to finish the case off with Siam's mother's words. Quote, "She loved me so much. I wasn't a perfect mother. In so many ways, I wasn't a perfect mother. But she always forgave me. I miss her so much." And that's the really sad part, is that she never gets to see her daughter again because this piece of shit decided that he can just do as he pleases.
Yeah. And all she wanted was to go to college and better her life and make something for her mom, for herself.
Yeah. What I also heard in one of my sources was that when his house was searched, in every single drawer they found like a sexual enhancer drug. They didn't find any condoms in his house at all. And I don't know if it is 100% confirmed, but he had AIDS. And he seemingly was just, spreading it everywhere because they also didn't find any
retrovirals.
Yeah. None of that either. So he was most likely just knowingly spreading it around and not caring because he had raped before and had, done all these horrible things before. And like I said, it's just sad that her mom doesn't get justice. Not that I don't feel there's ever justice, even when they do go to prison. It's still a hole that's left in your life, and especially if it's your child. Yeah, it's so difficult not getting emotionally and touched by these types of cases.
All they wanted was a better life.
Yeah,
all they wanted.
They literally just wanted her Siam to be able to go to university to study.
Yeah. And like you said, to be a teacher, to help people, to be a force for good in the world. Chanelle, I think I'm just going to bring the whole box here and just put it under my, just keg standards because I'm now very sad.
Just hold it aloft and open the tap.
Yeah, pretty much. Just drown myself.
I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but when I went to Klipwerf, which is like a very Afrikaans, said disco. I'm not that old.
Okay, Granny.
Club. It's like an Afrikaans socky club thing, but it's a little bit common. There was one I witnessed once. A girl walking around with a box of wine, and she literally drank the wine out of the box, holding the box of wine over her head and opening the tap. She walked around with it. Because we were standing outside. There's like an outside area where, I don't know, people went and smoked and you just congregate there to talk, I guess. And she was walking around outside with her box of wine.
That is amazing.
She was drunk out of her mind, I'm sure.
Well, I can imagine.
I will never forget that. I can still see it.
All right, I'm going to get wine.
Okay. I forgot to mention that Diens de Toy, the student from Stellenbosch, that urinated all over the students' belongings, has been expelled. Yeah, he's been kicked out. It's done now, basically. I think he has 5 business days to rebut, or I don't know if you can't really, how do you fight against that? But yeah.
So yeah, my story is not too long. Today was just a series of phone calls at work. And of course, I tried to do research in the week, and every time I started, I'm like, oh no, but I can't cover that. That's more true crime. Or like, no, there's not enough information for this. I can't do it. And I just like kept saying no to every story. I literally started on 3 different topics today until I started on this one. I'm like, okay, you have to do this now. Do it. But yeah, this is somewhere where I would love to go, but not many people are allowed to visit it. Poveglia is in northern Italy. It's between Venice and Lido in the Venetian lagoon, and it is a very small island. It's divided into 2 parts by a small canal, and the first record of the island dates back to 421. And I don't know if that's like the year 421. Like, I'm sure it existed then, like, but damn, that's like, that's before Jesus, you know what I mean? That's like, damn,
Yeah.
Like, to think that was actually a time when...
Well, what did the...
the shift.
How did it look, I wonder? Like, how far out of Pangea were we?
I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway, go on.
I had a Christian schooling, so I did not learn evolution and basic science until college. So the island was populated until 1378, when the War of Chioggia broke out and the residents fled to the islands of Giudecca. After this, the island was deserted for 300 years. In 1645, it was once again used, this time as an outpost for controlling the movement of ships in the lagoon as a way to protect Venice. In the early 1700s, the Black Death overtook Italy, and this was sadly not a new occurrence. So this is all a quote now, because, there's no way to just change this, but, quote, "The Black Death, also known as the pestilence, the great mortality, or simply the plague, was a bubonic plague pandemic occurring in Afro-Eurasia from 1346 to 1353. It is the most fatal pandemic recorded in human history, causing the death of 75 to 200 million people in Eurasia and North Africa, peaking in Europe from 1347 to 1351. Bubonic plague is caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, spread by fleas, but it can also take a secondary form where it is spread person-to-person contact via aerosols, causing septicemia or pneumonic plagues. So, this is a really horrible thing, and you get, buboes or the pustules and things, and it's just an awful, awful illness to have. So the reason I put this in here is because the first case of the plague in Venice was around 1348, which killed about half of the population in around 6 months.
Sure.
In 1423, the plague came back, and this time Venice instituted a state-financed hospital, the first of its kind in the world, on an island named Santa Maria di Nazareth, later called Lazaretto. Between the 14th and 18th centuries, Venice incurred the wrath of the plague no less than 69 times.
What?
Yeah, some of the times the officials could curb the spread and jumped in to stay the plague in time, and other times the people suffered and dealt with a lot of loss, and no doubt the people became very wary of dealing with the plague and all the devastation it brought. So a new hospital, the new Lazaretto, or Lazaretto Nuovo, was created in 1468, and it was intended to be a quarantine area, while the old Lazaretto was meant to aid in curing those who were already infected. But a simpler solution was created, Poveglia. In 1575 and 1630, the plague resurfaced again, and while the existing lazarettos were functioning, it was decided that the infected would be sent to Poveglia Island. There was no medical facility on the island and really no proper infrastructure since it had mostly been abandoned. but those sent there were not meant to return to the mainland. They had been sent there to die. And in 1799, the last vessel arrived at the island. It was a Spanish brig that had unfortunately had the disease reveal itself during the voyage, with 8 of the crew dying from the disease.
Oh, shit.
So you can imagine, like, the people of Venice, as much as they, loved people that they were around every day, they didn't want to have to face the plague again and again and again. And so, like, okay, cool, you showing symptoms, we're shipping you off. To try and get to protect the majority of people.
Yeah.
They sent these people off. But can you imagine just being on the boat and going to the island, and that you're just going where people are, everyone's sick there, and you're going there to be left to die?
Yeah.
And this has been such a horrible feeling,
Even if you
and it's children, adults.
You're going to be sick now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter how old you are, what gender you are, whatever. If you've got some kind of symptom, you're going to be sent away by your family to die. And that's just awful, So the next chapter for the island begins in 1922, when it started its new phase, this time as a mental hospital. And this was around the time when Mussolini came to power and fascism was like the main ideology. So, things were just changing, the world just moves on, but illness doesn't really move on. It just gets worse and worse, really. And at first the hospital functioned, because they made a hospital on the island. Sorry, I don't know if I made that clear. So they created a hospital on the island to treat people. And at first the hospital functioned, as you'd hope, and then it had a focus on healing and, helping those who were ill. But over time it became more of a focus to, quote, protect the mainland population. And a doctor with a penchant for racial biology joined the hospital. So his name is not known, probably because documentation was lost during the war and all of that. But there are stories about him and what went on the island. He, like many other doctors of the time, believed in the positive effects of lobotomies, and so he performed them on many patients, usually without their consent.
Of course.
There was no anesthesia used, and very little in the form of sanitation during the procedure. When things like hammers, drills, and chisels were used to pick through the patient's skull and into the frontal lobe of the brain. I know there's a transorbital lobotomy where I think they go in the eye sockets, like between the bone and the actual eyeball, and they get into the brain.
I hate this.
And for some people it helped, especially like really violent people, but basically it turns you into a zombie. It doesn't cure anything. It just treats.
Poking a hole through someone's fucking brain. Of course it's going to turn you into a zombie.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So there's also a legend that this doctor took select patients, like the ones he chose, to the hospital bell tower where he performed the worst experiments. And screams from those patients were heard across the island. So imagine you're there, you're there to die, and you just hear people screaming because you know that they're being basically experimented on.
Yeah.
It must have just been an awful place to be.
I can't even imagine.
But thankfully, after a while, that doctor got a dose of his own awful medicine and became mentally afflicted. He was tormented by the spirits on the island, pushed to the point where he climbed to the top of the bell tower and jumped to his death.
Oh.
Some sources say he ran screaming, as if being chased, into the bell tower, where his only escape was to jump. Some think that this was the spirit of one of the patients that he had tortured. And another part of the legend is that a nurse saw him jump and then claimed that he didn't die immediately, but a sort of mist overtook his body where he lay, and a spirit choked him to death. Which, we can only hope actually happened. Like that some ghost was like, you know what, screw you, dude.
Seeking revenge, yeah.
Yeah, so this hospital was from 1799 was around the time. This was open until 1946 or 1968. Like the hospital was open for quite a while, even after this guy died. So
That's crazy.
So you can imagine as well, on this island, people are ill. So when people have, these horrible illnesses, sorry, it's like with COVID, we saw as well, like, you don't want to really bury people who have very contagious illnesses because it can go into the water, into the soil, and it can contaminate living people and the areas around it. So you kind of just want to get rid of the body that's got the contagion. So you burn it, to try and get rid of the disease. So with the plague victims as well, they would put people into just, big plague pits and just incinerate, like a mass cremation, basically.
You also
because
you also don't want those infected bodies to be stored and lying around, because that still could infect you. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, very much so. So you can imagine, especially since these people were just sent there to die, and there's not really much regulation on this island. You kind of just do what you want, So it is said now that the soil composition of the island is around 50% human ash, as this is how many lives were lost or how many dead bodies were left there over time. In this ashy soil, though, grapevines thrive and produce grapes seasonally. Some people from the mainland come over to the island to harvest the grapes and take them back with them, but it's only a select few people who dare to do this task or who have the permission to do so. But yeah, I don't know, like, I wouldn't want to really eat grapes or drink wine. That comes from, where so many people that they suffered and died.
I know, I agree.
Human bones also sometimes wash up on the shores of the island, and with so many people being buried or cremated, either fully or partially, there are remains that show up along the waters, and there are fishermen from the surrounding land that are kind of afraid to get too close to the island in the fear that they're going to capture bones in their nets while they're fishing, because obviously with the tides and everything, it just, because you don't know.
Horrifying. What the hell? The fact that that's like a relatively common occurrence, that it's actually a thing that fishermen don't want to go near there. What the hell? Yeah,
like, people don't want to go near it. And I mean, if, like, cremation fact, you have to have a fire at, I think it's around 2,000 degrees Celsius for around 8 hours to fully turn a human body and its skeleton to the dust. So it's, if they just had this big pile of bodies that they've set fire to, it's not going to destroy everything because it's not, a very contained fire. So there are going to be bones and things over time that just move around.
100%.
So, you can imagine that must be just an awful place.
I don't want to go there.
Just, I do though.
No thanks. You can video call me and I'll watch you run around with the ghosts and the grapes. Yeah.
Well, in 2009, hair gel encrusted and acid wash jeans wearing Zach Bagans and his crew went to the island. This was season 3, so it was the beginning of Ghost Adventures. Like, this is still early in the career. And this is a summary of some of the things they experienced, just, to touch on the hauntings. So, during the day, Nick hears a girl's voice, and a few moments later, Zach's audio dies. Throughout their investigation, they hear footsteps, moaning, banging, screaming, and various thuds. Nick reported feeling sick. There was an anomaly or sort of apparition that manifested itself and moved down the wall slowly before disappearing. Aaron feels drained and lightheaded, and at the same time they capture what looks to be like an orb shooting into his neck.
Oh.
I've literally just put this in quotations in capital letters. Zach is possessed because...
He's not.
It's Zach Bagans. Of course he's possessed. He's possessed on like every freaking investigation they go on. They smell something burning, which is plausible.
Yeah.
While investigating the plague fields, their infrared panel tripod is knocked over and they hear footsteps. They capture EVPs that say, quote, "Come here, I'm here," but it's in Italian. There's another quote, "Let's fight," and things like "hey" and "bye-bye." So they do capture quite a few EVPs while they're there.
Do they capture them in Italian or English?
That one, the "come here, I'm here" was in Italian. Yeah.
Okay. And then the rest were in English.
I'm not sure if it didn't specify the rest, but yeah, I think the others were in English.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't know, like that's always a thing, you know, when you go onto the other side, how much of yourself are you, you know,
Yeah.
when you're a ghost? Like, can you understand all languages? You know, like...
Like, are you still... If you're a ghost and you're on Earth, are you still bound to, like, earthly things, you know, like as in language, as in time, culture? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because you're not moving on.
Yeah, it's
you're
very
not
strange.
becoming you're not ascending to, you know, a higher, like, power or whatever. You are stuck here.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're confused. They don't
But
even
then again,
know they're dead.
Yeah. Yeah, which is weird because you think you are your spiritual form and, you know, your spirits. You're connected to, like, source energy, you know, whatever. Surely you must know. Like, I don't know, like, what do you get to know? Maybe that's why we come to Earth a few times, because we only get to know certain amounts. Who knows?
Please let this be my last.
What if you own... What if, like, you only know what you learned in every lifetime? So, like, you only learned, like, a little bit of math, and then your next life, I don't know, you're expected to be, like, a mathematician, and it's just a real struggle for you. I don't know. You go to the afterlife, and you're just, like, the dumbest one there, because you didn't really learn stuff while you were on Earth. Okay, and then a static night vision camera captures what appears to be a mist moving across a field, and at the same time, they capture disembodied voices. In another area, a moan is heard at the same time that they capture a dark mist moving down a pillar. So it seems like there's a lot of, like, dark shadows sort of moving along walls and surfaces, like, just, like, skulking around. Nick told the spirits to use his energy, he told them in Italian, and then his camera battery was drained. In an area known as the Bad Room, an orb is seen shooting into Zach. Aaron hears something fall while he was in the bell tower, and Aaron's camera also just stopped recording for a few seconds, and afterwards he got an EVP, and then Zach's camera went blank and shut off. I've also seen, like, on one or two sources where it says the bell tower, like, the bell just sometimes randomly goes off and things like that. You know, it's
Don't like that.
I mean, it's understandable with all of that death and suffering and fear and trauma. You know, like, can you imagine being a kid? You're like 8 years old and you've been sent on this boat because you're sick and now you're going to go die, and you know that you are. You know that no one comes back from this island. You know, and then you're chosen by this doctor and he operates and, like, tortures you, you know, like, the trauma that these people must have gone through is just horrendous.
100%.
So, yeah, like, that's, Poveglia Island, which is a beautiful island. Like, if you look at pictures, it's gorgeous,
imagine,
but no one wants to go there.
Beautiful.
It's also privately owned. Someone bought it and so doesn't allow people to go there. Like, no one's allowed to really go there. Like, even when Zach went, they had to get permission to go.
Of course, Who among...
So it's very, like, protected.
Who among them spoke Italian?
I think they just had it translated.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because, I mean, I've seen other, like, paranormal investigations where they go to a place and they just say certain phrases. Like, when ghost hunters came to South Africa and they went to visit, like, here in Cape Town and I think Joburg, some of them try to speak Afrikaans.
Oh, okay.
You know, properly British people trying to speak Afrikaans in the freaking castle, Donkergat and all that. So it was quite interesting to watch. But they do try, and sometimes they get responses. Okay. Like, they speak English and they don't get responses, and they speak the language that they would have spoken and they get responses. So it's very interesting.
Interesting.
How does it actually work, you know?
I suppose you're still trapped here. Like, you're trapped soul here because you're not supposed to haunt. You're not supposed to stay here. You're supposed to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wouldn't go there. Wouldn't drink the wine. Wouldn't eat the grapes. Wouldn't eat the raisins.
Like, what if you drink the wine and you get possessed? You know?
Yeah.
Because it's spirits.
On that note.
Sips wine. It's amazing that, you know, the plants thrive in the soil that is so, you know, filled with death, you know? Like, because what was I? I think I was looking at when our dog passed, because she was cremated and half of her ashes were mixed with soil, like in two different plants. So the one went to like the burial ground and we got the other half. And I was looking at, like, you know, cremated ash, you know, it's not really helpful to the soil from what I've read. So, you know, to think that with so much of it being ash, that it's still thriving so much. It's quite amazing.
Yeah.
Don't
know why.
Yeah, it just seems like a really interesting place, and that it had so many different, well, not so many different lives, but like basically a quarantine area, and then a mental hospital, you know, and an actual, well, quote, actual hospital where they try to help people as well. You know, it's it's just so many people basically. Exactly, and there's just so many people in pain and just like if you know,
it must be a really, really heavy energy, like being there.
Yes.
Like I would imagine you'd feel just heavy being there.
Yes.
A place that sees that much death, and it's probably also a relatively small area, you know, for the amount of death that it had. I mean, friggin' hell, making up 50% of the soil is ash. That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, after it was an asylum for the mentally ill, it was used as a nursing home or long-term care facility until it closed in 1968. And then it was briefly used for agriculture and then completely abandoned.
Oh.
So it really did go through a whole life cycle. In 2014, the Italian state auctioned a 99-year lease of Poveglia, which would remain state property to raise revenue, hoping that the buyer would redevelop the hospital into a luxury hotel. The highest bid was from Italian businessman Luigi Brugnaro. He paid it's got euros 513,000 here. He planned to invest 20 million euros into a restoration plan. But the lease did not proceed because his project was judged not to meet all the conditions. Like, can you imagine trying to turn that into a hotel?
Never. Who would want to go there? Well, I guess...
Like, that just...
You always get like morbid tourists, basically, or tourism and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I feel like, I mean, you can't compare, obviously, but that's like turning like a part of Auschwitz into a bed and breakfast. You know what I mean? Like you can't do that. It's not obviously the same amount and it's not the same thing, but it's people sent somewhere to die. Yeah. That is the burial place of so many people who were tortured and hurt, and you want to build a freaking hotel over that. Yeah. That's so tasteless.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. Watch the Ghost Adventures episode. I know it's season 3. I think the link is in my notes, probably.
I was waiting for you to say my bio.
Yeah, link in bio. Ghost Adventures fangirl, 96. I don't know. 96, 69, I don't know.
It's just my birth year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I won't say mine because I'm 1,000. This
has been episode 29.
Yeah, this has been episode 29.
This has been episode 29. And this has been Law and Omen.
And we has been happy to have you here with us. And thank you to everyone who voted for us. Voting is now closed, so we just have to wait to hear what the results are. But that's, I think, in September. So
end of September, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And We have to submit a video in case we win.
Now Chanelle has to be on camera.
Oh, I can't escape it this time.
I'm so excited to record that. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'll bake a cheesecake.
I'm looking forward to that.
We are on social media. I almost said info@Law and Omen. That is our email address. We are on social media at Law and Omen.
And there's also our website, lawandomen.com. We're on most streaming platforms.
We post every Sunday.
And
that's it.
Yeah.
That's us. That's me in a nutshell. Yeah. And have a good week.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Stay safe.
We love you. Bye. Peace.
Bye. Peace.
Peace out, motherfucker.